Yes.
Gotta put on my racing stuff.
Freedom Day. Carys tunnel, we're going down. Let's do this thing. Whoa. Hey everyone, so we just spent our first Freedom Day running through Hezekiah's tunnel and trying to see everything we can see, because we just found out last night / early this morning that the city and the whole country is going into lockdown yet again because of Rosh Hashanah and Sukkot and the high holidays that are coming up. They don't want everyone to be, you know, like out and about and partying and spreading COVID. So I got up really early this morning, which if you know me is a rarity, and I'm heading to the Davidson Center. I don't know if it'll be open because things are starting to close down, but I want to see if it's open and see if I can show you guys around there. So let's go. So we are at the Davidson Center, and I'm at the southern steps that would have led up to the Temple Mount during the Second Temple period. And it's pretty difficult to say in the modern era of Jerusalem where Jesus was and exactly where he walked and what did he see, because the city is just rich with history. There's so many levels and layers of different civilizations and historical periods. And so it's hard to reconstruct at times, but we can be pretty certain that Jesus would have walked up the steps that would have been here at the time. You can see that there's some archways behind me that are filled in, and that used to be the gateway, one of the main gateways into the temple. And while a lot of the stairs have been reconstructed, there are parts of it that are original. There's some stone up there on the ground that dates back to the time of King Herod. And as I've been sitting here reflecting this morning, I've been thinking about the expectation that might have been placed on Jesus as he walked up these stairs and onto the Temple Mount. You know, he's going to put things right. He's going to clear the temple of corruption and cleanse it and purify it and make things right again within the temple, within this beautiful, magnificent structure. But then if you walk around the corner here, you see a very different picture. History tells a very different story of a temple that was completely destroyed, decimated, burned to the ground. When you come around the corner from the southern steps, this is what you see. These are the very stones from the Temple Mount over 2,000 years ago when the Romans heaved them up from above and threw them down here in the destruction of Jerusalem and the temple in 70 AD. And it's such a distinct contrast to go from the southern steps, where there was still expectation, where there was hope, but it was hope for a specific thing. And then to come around the corner and see that ultimately what Jesus said, that not one stone will be left on top of another. The temple isn't going to remain standing, that came true. You know, the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem in 70 AD, I think that really would have seemed like the end of the world. Josephus describes it in detail, and it was a horrendous time. Thousands and thousands of people being slaughtered, trees and all the land being burned. Obviously, the destruction of property and buildings being thrown down here in such violent ways. I mean, this was a big deal. And yet, as I sit here today in a Jerusalem that has been rebuilt again, where all of these different people of faith are living together and learning to work together and coming to this city to worship God, I'm reminded that, you know, while this would have seemed like the end of the world for sure, it wasn't the end. And maybe sometimes what seems like the end can actually be the beginning. within Christianity at the time. It was still a budding religion, and a lot of Christians, we know in Acts that Paul and some of the other apostles were still going to the temple, were still teaching in the temple and a part of the temple system. And so this would have seemed like the end of the world for them as well, I'm sure. And yet what do we see? We see that because of this, they end up going out into other places and spreading the gospel further and further. And eventually the city is rebuilt. I can hear some Jewish people singing their prayers right now, right above me. And people are still coming back to the city. And in fact, a lot of the very stones that were destroyed or burned or thrown off the Temple Mount by the Romans are used within the modern city today. Today, I think we're going through a lot of things that can feel like the end of the world. I know that there are fires burning across the West Coast. We're in the middle of this global pandemic. This summer, our eyes have been opened to racism, which has existed all along, under the surface or in ways that maybe we weren't aware of. And this is something that we have to change and that we're working towards justice for. I think in our own ways, we know what it's like to feel like the world is ending, or to feel like the way everything is supposed to be just isn't happening. I can say I definitely felt that way when I woke up and realized that I'm going to be in lockdown yet again. I hear a lot of conversation. I myself participate in talking this way. We'll say, oh, I can't wait till things go back to normal. It's just such a different time. I can't wait to go back to how things were. But I don't think we should go back to the way things were. I think that we always want to be moving forward. And so as I look at these massive stones, I'm reminded that yes, terrible things happen. And I do not believe God causes evil or does these things to us. But I do see how good grows out of the bad. And I see that maybe the end doesn't have to be the end. And maybe it's only the beginning.